All right, good afternoon, everybody. Time for Sports, Nothing But Sports with Ken Sterling, and today with Mark Montieth, talking about the Indiana Pacers, brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Call 317-849-2933. Mark from Pacers.com. Let me ask you this, because Paul George said some things last night. Am I missing something about Paul George? What's your take on Paul George and his comments last night?
Yeah, it was typical Paul George to me, because he was that way when he was here. He is the master of the cryptic comment that leaves you kind of scratching your head, wondering, what exactly is he talking about? You know, is he mad? Is he whatever? Is he joking? He was that way here. And he's the same way. He says this thing about, I'm going to write a book and I'll tell all. And,
he's going to sell 4 copies.
Well, and he never will. I'm not convinced he ever will. And then he talks about, the fans booing. That's Indiana for you. What does that mean exactly? Are you mad? Does that mean you think the fans here are passionate? What exactly do you mean by that?
Right.
I mean, so many things he says you can take a couple or 3 different ways, and he just kind of shrug and move on. I mean, it was that way when he was here.
I never know whether it's purposeful or whether he's just awkward in making comments to the point where he contradicts himself, or whether he's purposely vague, or he just doesn't really have any true north to him, and he just says words.
I think it's the latter. I really think it's that. Yeah, I think, because I remember when he was here, he would always play into the question. Like, he would tell you what he thought you wanted to hear, and if you said, Paul, do you think such and such? He'd, yeah. I always tried to give him an option, like, Paul, do you think this, or is it this? And make him come up with an answer. But he would always kind of play into the question. And, that's why he wasn't a good leader, because there is no true north with him. He just kind of fluctuates and adapts. That's why he needs to be around a more forceful personality or around older players. That's why he fit in here so well on those conference final teams that had David West and George Hill and those guys. But when it became a situation where he was the leader, it didn't work. Because he just can't, he's not grounded enough to hold that position. So
I thought it was fascinating what he said about being the villain, because he's not a villain. Villains are, unless you're like Hitler, this virulent guy that everybody hates. Villains in sports are loved and hated. Some people, like Bill Laimbeer. People in Detroit love Bill Laimbeer.
Reggie Miller.
Right. Everybody else hates him.
Yeah.
Paul is not loved nor hated by anybody. He's neither a hero nor a villain.
I think that's right. He's a nice guy, but you just are never sure where he's coming from or what he stands for. So, you don't really have a strong feeling about him either way. But, what's going to happen when he goes to OKC this year a couple of times?
Yeah.
I don't think they've been there yet. He's going to get booed there, too, obviously.
Right.
And is he going to say the same thing? Is he going to put them in the book as well? I don't know. It's bizarre, and it's kind of unfortunate, because I like him just fine. Nobody would dislike him. It was interesting. It's always interesting to me to see these guys who get booed by fans, former Pacers, but you see people in the front office go out of their way to reach out to him and say hi to him and hug him and all this kind of thing. So they're people, and Ron Artest was that way, obviously. They're people that you like if you're around them on a daily basis. Yeah. That doesn't mean you understand them or even respect them a lot. They're just easy people to get along with.
Talking to Mark Montieth, this team, the Pacers, they've lost 2 of their last 3, right? They lost to Detroit. They just kind of didn't play well at all in the first half. Then last night was kind of a clunker in a lot of ways. I thought they got outworked by the Clippers, and that should never happen. Is that just the way an 82-game season sort of works? Some nights you got rhythm, some nights you don't?
To a degree, it is, yeah. Every team, every season has games like that where it's just not coming together. And the whole scheduling thing is somewhat of an excuse coming off of that long road trip. It is a fact that the first game home after a long road trip is difficult and often results in a loss, or at least a poor performance. I remember writing about that when Larry Bird was coach. I kind of looked into the stats on it, and it is true. But still, the Clippers were in the back-to-back. They're without Kawhi Leonard. They're without a couple other guys who play.
Right.
So you really weren't at a disadvantage, and you should have played better. So to me, the game that really will tell us where this team is right now is tomorrow against Boston, because they've been here a few days. They've got to practice today. There won't be any excuses for schedule or anything like that. So I'm looking forward to that to see how they come out in that game and how well they play.
We're looking at Victor Oladipo shooting, and he looks a little bit different. Looks like he's more game ready, kind of, than we've seen him in his attire.
Yeah.
So what do we? And there he goes, jumping toward the rim. What do we think about Vic? I know there's no announced timeline, but how's his progression work?
It looks like he is progressing. He looks like he's ready to go. You know, and whenever you hear a teammate like Edmund Sumner, who has practiced with him, talk, you know, he says like, "Oh yeah, he looks good. He's the old Vic," you know. So it's hard to say exactly what he's waiting on. Obviously, it's going to be his decision. You can't make him come back if he doesn't feel he's ready. But he's going through practices now, like everybody else.
As he comes into the starting lineup, it's going to affect the starters. And then when Jeremy Lamb moves to the second unit, that really affects the second unit too. And the second unit's been terrific. Yeah. Does this make the second unit that much more dynamic?
Should, because Jeremy Lamb, he didn't play well last night, but overall has played well as a starter. So you figure him on the second unit has to make that better. I mean, the Pacers have good depth, and it's going to be difficult for Nate McMillan to figure out how many to play, who to play, when to play them. You know, you've got good players who aren't going to play at all. So that will be interesting to see. But also, I'm really interested to see how Oladipo blends with the starters when he does come back. Does he make it a point to blend with them? Is he going to expect them to blend around him? I mean, what I'm really saying is how many shots does he plan to get up?
Right.
Because we've talked about this before. You know, when he limits his field goal attempts, the Pacers are awfully good. You know, the number I always go back to 2 years ago when he took 15 or fewer shots, they were 21-3, and all three losses were fluky. Something else weird had to happen. And this group has more firepower than any he's ever been with. So is he going to come out and want to shoot 20, 25 times, or is he going to limit it and try to rack up a lot of assists and that kind of thing? So to me, that's the key to the season. If he could blend in, be more interested in the triple-double than in getting 30 points, I think the Pacers could be really good.
Well, and that's going to change the way T.J. Warren goes about his business, because he's kind of a volume scorer and a guy that the Pacers rely upon to get up a bunch of shots. Yeah. If he's only getting up 6 shots a game because Vic's taking 20, that's a double negative, right?
Yeah. And you already have Myles Turner, who has had to step back offensively and has dealt with it okay, but obviously struggles with it at once.
That's kind of a weird deal, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's affected his all-around play, it seems like. So, you know, you can't have 5 starters averaging 20 points. You know, you have to have somebody stepping back offensively. And you used to have role players like Dale Davis or Jeff Foster who didn't care about scoring. Well, this team doesn't have that. So someone on a given night has to be willing not to be part of the offense, I think.
And you've got a guy like Domas Sabonis, where if he keeps scoring at the level he is, he's an all-star. Yeah. If he's got to peel that back 4 points, he's not.
Yeah.
You know?
And he's so good in low post, you're going to throw the ball to him.
Right.
And, I mean, the Pacer offense initiates with Brogdon running off a high ball screen from Sabonis. So one of those two guys is going to shoot, usually. Brogdon gets to the basket, or Sabonis picks and rolls, or Brogdon shoots a mid-range jumper. I mean, that's a huge part of the offense, and that leaves 3 other guys out of it half the time. So they got some things to work out. It'll be interesting.
And tomorrow night we get to see a little bit from the Pacers in Boston. Thank you for stopping by, the great Mark Montieth from Pacers.com. All right, let's talk to Domas Sabonis of the Indiana Pacers. Domas, you give up a lot of LBs. You give up a lot of size to some of these guys in the NBA as you match up with them. What's that like?
I don't know. I just play. You know, you don't really think about it. You just go out. You have an opponent in front of you, and you try to out-hustle him, out-beat him, and help the team win.
How much is rebounding about preparation? You always seem to be around the ball. Is that prep or is that good fortune? What is that?
You just gotta. Sometimes you gotta do your work early and box out. You know, depending on the shot. Other times, you just gotta guess where the ball's going. You know. You see a shot going up instead of there's a lot of times I could just float around on the 3-point line, but sometimes you make that extra effort to go and get it.
Reading about a guy like Dennis Rodman, he watched a lot of film to see where the ball had come off for different shooters and that kind of thing. Do you do that?
Not that, but I know, like, if you shoot from the corner, the percentages of it going opposite side are usually more, so I usually place myself on that side. You know, there's little things that you could do, but it's just mainly going after the ball. You know, like if someone boxes you out, don't give up. Just swim around him and go get it.
Indiana Pacers tomorrow night against the Boston Celtics at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Game time tomorrow, 7 o'clock. The Celtics, really good this year, 17-5 on the season. We'll see what the Pacers can do. Are they in one of those slumps they're going to be able to snap out of it? We'll see. Tonight, is Indiana going to be able to bounce back from a beatdown that they took at Wisconsin over the weekend? They got beat by 20. The lead was at 30 several times before Indiana cut it down to 20. What are they going to do tonight at Madison Square Garden against UConn? The Huskies come in, not a bad team. They've had some good wins. They've had a couple of tough beats. This game is going to show us something about Indiana. Did they learn from that experience in Madison, or did they not? Are they going to come out and be able to play 40 minutes of focused and relentless basketball? Again, find out tonight, 9 o'clock, ESPN, and also same time, which is terribly wrong and not very generous of the people at ESPN. On ESPN2, you've got Butler traveling to Waco to take on the Baylor Bears. Baylor ranked 11th this year. Butler ranked 18th right now. Butler undefeated after beating Florida at Hinkle Fieldhouse on Saturday. If you were not there, it was something to see. They were relentless. We talk about relentlessness a lot. And Butler defines relentlessness in basketball. They were absolutely tenacious in beating the Florida Gators, who were really never in the game. It was only an 11-point game, but during that game, you were like, okay, this game's over. There's no way Florida can come back on Butler, given the level at which Butler is playing. We've seen that over the years at Hinkle Fieldhouse. The last couple of times Butler has played Villanova, we've seen it. Sellout crowd at Hinkle Fieldhouse on Saturday. Again, the atmosphere absolutely electric. It's going to be electric in the inverse tonight, in all likelihood, as Butler is going to be down in Waco. The people at Baylor, they enjoy their college football. They enjoy their college basketball because there isn't much else to really care about down in Waco. Again, both those games tonight, 9 o'clock. Bill Belichick says the Patriots do not knowingly cross the line between legal and illegal, between like creating an advantage for your team with legal means and creating an advantage through illegal means. Here's what happened. So at the Browns-Bengals game this past Sunday, there was a video crew from the Patriots. They were in the press box. They were shooting video. The people from the Bengals, because the Patriots played the Bengals this weekend, they were kind of curious what the hell people were doing from the Patriots there. And what they were doing as they were monitored throughout the entire first quarter, evidently, they were shooting the sidelines of the Cincinnati Bengals to get the coach's signals as they sent plays in and as they communicated with the guys out on the field. How ridiculous is that? Didn't we go through Spygate? And didn't we go through a period before the Super Bowl back in 2001 where the Rams accused the Patriots of videotaping practices that the Rams held? And didn't Mike Martz, as a result, build a bunch of evergreens in Earth City, Missouri, where the Rams trained to keep people from being in a hotel and being able to shoot video at a practice field? The answer is yes. Absolutely. That's exactly what they did. And yet the Patriots do that this past weekend. The Patriots say, hey, if we did anything wrong, we accept full responsibility. What the hell does that mean? Does that mean they did something wrong? Does that mean they didn't do something wrong? Does that mean maybe they accidentally did something wrong? What exactly are they admitting to? The Patriots are just nauseating. They just don't care. They have no morality whatsoever. They have no moral compass. They are ends justify the means Nixonian in the way they try to build an advantage over a team like the Cincinnati Bengals, for God's sake. The Patriots should be able to go beat the Bengals and not have there be a doubt who the better football team is. I think it's just wrong. We've gotten to a point in our society where winning counts for so much. And do you know this? The people in New England especially, they love the Patriots for this. They love the Patriots winning games at the expense of rules and fair play. How absurd is that? Where are we as a society where winning wrong somehow is valued ahead of losing correctly? Look, winning is just the result of a game. Winning in finance, That's making money. That's got nothing to do with whatsoever the way you live your life and the way you communicate your moral code to others. You can live a hell of a good life without making a lot of money. You can live a hell of a good life while making a lot of money. You can do a great job as a coach of a 4-12 team. You can do a great job as a coach of a 12-4 team. I know we love winning. Nobody loves winning more than me. Nobody hates losing more than me. That's absolutely right. But I will not do the wrong thing in order to generate the right result. I just won't. And I hope there are a hell of a lot more people like me out there than there are like Bill Belichick who will do whatever it takes to win. I think that's a reprehensible way to live a life. And that people celebrate it somehow is just completely so wrong-headed that I can't tell you how obnoxious I think that it is. We spent some time earlier in the show talking to Mark Montieth of Pacers.com about Paul George. Paul George is just such a weird guy, such an enigma, right? He just talks. Nobody's ever sure whether he means what he says or whether he's giving enough thought to what he says to have us be sure whether he even knows what he's saying. He says he loves to play the victim. He's not the victim, or he's not the villain. He's not a villain. You've got to be loved and you've got to be hated in order to be a victim or a villain. And he's just not what that is. Paul George is one of the least polarizing people in the NBA. Like you can like or hate LeBron James. And you can have good reasons for doing either. You can like or hate Greg Popovich, and you can have really good reasons for doing either. James Harden takes 1 million shots a game. He's a volume scorer. All he knows how to do is have the ball in his hand and score it. He is great at it. Superlative as an all-around scorer in the NBA. But you know what? You can argue whether you enjoy that style of basketball or not. There's nothing to argue about Paul George. Nothing. He is a brand. He is an empty brand, an empty uniform. He is a shoe guy. He's an empty pair of shoes. That's who Paul George is. I neither love nor hate him. I am absolutely indifferent to him. And I wish that the fans who went to Bankers Life Fieldhouse last night had just been completely silent and shown their indifference for the guy last night when the Pacers played the Clippers. They didn't. They booed. Paul George took a certain amount of offense and said afterwards, well, that's Hoosiers for you. I don't know what the hell that means. I don't think Paul George knows what it means. Tomorrow morning, hopefully we're talking about a Hoosiers win and a Bulldogs win and looking ahead to a Pacers win against the Boston Celtics on Breakfast with Kent, 8 o'clock straight up on Facebook Live, and then at 8:15-ish, depending on how long the Facebook Live version goes, we do it at 8:15-ish on Periscope Live, which is accessible through Twitter. Brought to you by the great people at Today's Dentistry. Give them a call, 317-849-2933. Dr. Mike O'Neill, the best dentist that there ever has been. You'll love being a patient at Today's Dentistry. Talk to you then.